Hello, welcome to Duncan Diggs Gardening. Some grasses behind me are in need of a chop, so I'm about halfway through. At the back I've got miscanthus, which is very tall with big large feathery seed heads. And it's the perfect time to cut back grasses. New shoots are starting to form, and you can take them pretty much down to the ground, cut out the old growth and chuck it. And they don't also need much else doing to them. They just provide structure. I tend to have the higher grasses at the back, graduating down to the lower stuff at the front. And overall, they just look after themselves. They also could probably do with a bit of nutrition, with a bit of mulching at this time of year, I should say. And that's just primarily for a little bit of frost protection, but also to promote the acidity in the soil. Now, I do have some ericaceous compost, but I probably won't use that because it's got too much nutrition in it. What they probably would prefer is something like pine bark or pine needles, which would be perfect. So I'll have a go at that once I've finished this job. But apart from that, it's looking rather spring-like at the moment with all the narcissus and the tete-a-tete daffodils. So I'll carry on with that, and in the meantime, here's a few other jobs I've been getting on with. So as well as cutting back grass, the other thing you can be doing now is thinking about dahlias. Now, dahlias are mid to late summer flowerings, often into autumn. Most varieties you're going to start flowering around June, July onwards, and sometimes well into November and December if we have a mild winter. So I've been overwintering these dahlia tubers with a view to deciding where I want to plant them next year, what I want to do with them. Now, the thing about dahlias that I found in this part of the country, which is kind of the northwest of the UK, we had a very hot summer last year, but that's fairly uncharacteristic. And although that is starting to be more commonplace, I find, especially in this garden, which as I've said before is northwest facing, it doesn't get a lot of dedicated sunlight all day, every day. So what I actually took to doing last year was planting them up in a pot that they're going to live in for the entire season, bringing them inside, starting them off in a warm room with plenty of light. And in doing so, you're going to end up with kind of 7-8 inches to a foot of growth before you actually put them out. You're also strengthening the plant, protecting it from frost, which is the crucial bit. Dahlias absolutely hate wet and cold because it effectively rots the tubers. So one of the larger specimens I've actually got here, and just for your information, I've been storing this in a combination of some old compost and perlite. Shake that off there, and I'll probably end up giving this a wash before I do anything with it. But this is one of our dahlia tubers here. This is called Wine-Eyed Jill. Lovely sort of pinky yellow, big flowers. And all you're really doing is just inspecting the tubers, just to make sure that they're firm, none of them have rotted. We can see underneath here that you know, some of it's been exposed, some of it's a little damp still, which is to be expected. I've had them in the shed, so it's not been the driest place in the world, but it has been protected from the cold. And to be honest, I think they're looking okay. You can probably just remove some of the dead stuff. And you can see here some of these tubers will come away. But on the whole, they look a little bit loose. But on the whole, it's pretty solid go that. So this is an ideal candidate. I'm going to plonk it into the pot that it was actually in last year. Quite a large pot, plenty of room to grow. But it was competing with other dahlias last year, and I realised at the time it was far too big to share the space. So it's going to go in a dedicated pot on its own, where it can perform as well as possible. And the others, I will find suitable places for them. I try not to put too many dahlias in the ground. not least of which because I'm saving myself some work in the winter and I have to dig them all up and clean them all. I quite like dahlias in pots, especially in this kind of garden where I can move them to suit the light, and you know, promote the best possible display, basically. So there's a few here, a few more here as well, slightly smaller plants, but again, similar principle, different variety, but you're going to inspect them for firmness, pick out any dead, diseased, or soft tubers that might have gone rotten and shake it all off, and that will be ideal to plant. Now, the only other way you could do it is if you have a greenhouse or a cold frame that's effectively frost-free. Leave them outside. You will get new growth as long as they have plenty of light and they're protected. But in my case, I like to try and force dahlias to flower a little earlier because they always take a very, very long time in this part of the world. So, yeah, and I have no doubt once we do, they'll put on a good show. Now, this chap here is a miniature plum, and if you've been following this season, I was talking a lot about the fact that it didn't blossom at all last year. I think I cut it at the wrong time, pruned it at the wrong time. It attracted a lot of aphids and effectively stunted the tree's ability to actually produce blossom, and ultimately, of course, never produced any fruit. I'm absolutely delighted to be able to see ever so slight first formations of some blossom on some of the tips of the plant. So, word to the wise, the advice that they tell you about when to cut soft fruit is absolutely correct, and you should follow it at all times. Otherwise, you won't get any. Can't wait to see what happens. This is a magnolia. It's called Black Orchid. And I'm in two minds about what to do about this chap because we have a lot of branches lower down, and originally it was a very, very tall and thin plant, and all the sort of growth was at the top, but you had these 2 or 3 branches that sort of flew out from the bottom. And you know, they're perfectly healthy, full of buds, and we can see that it's just starting to come out here. Magnolias don't like to be interfered with. They don't like to be moved particularly. They don't like to be over pruned or touched. And quite frankly, I understand why. They're an ancient species that have been here millions and millions of years. One of the oldest species still surviving that's effectively prehistoric, for want of a better word. And it looks like we're going to have a great show. But until the frosts have passed, I'm not going to make any more decisions on whether or not to actually cut some of these lower branches off. And I've kind of been waiting for some of these to actually bush out at the top so it doesn't look a bit like a lollipop. So I think this year is going to be the year where I take off the lower growth and see how it goes. You can probably just make out as well, it's starting to grow a little bit into this and interfere with the camellia next to it. So I don't really want them to intermingle too much, even though it does no harm at all. I do feel I need to take off some of the lower growth, but yeah, check back in a couple of weeks' time, and we should have a pretty nice show. Now, surprise, surprise, this is a scilla. It's effectively a woodland bulb, and I planted it a few years ago, and it looks all right. But to be honest, I think it's important to note that sometimes you try something and it's perfectly okay if it just doesn't really work. So this pot is far too showy to be showing off something like that, although I'm quite pleased with the colour coordination. I am going to relocate this after it's finished flowering to some of the shadier areas of the garden, let it spread, do its thing. I'm going to put something else in this pot, but I thought it worth noting. Not everything works, and it's lovely. It's just it's not in the right place, and I think that's the good part of gardening. If you don't like it, just change it. In a previous episode, I covered the herb planter, and I did warn at the time, don't ever plant mint in the ground, and this is why. This mint plant was actually planted in this corner originally, and this is actually all the dead. This is all the dead stuff from the original mint plant. You can see that it's basically made its way all the way to the other end of the planter. So, word to the wise, it's absolutely crucial that you keep it contained in a pot if you like mint, and there's absolutely no reason why you wouldn't, because it's a fantastic versatile plant. Nice to see we've got some flowers on the rosemary here as well, which was a little bit unexpected. It obviously likes the spot, but unpicking a lot of this now will actually prove to be nigh on impossible because of the root system. So I'm in two minds about what to do with it all, frankly. Answers on a postcard, or as they say nowadays, stick a comment under the video and let me know what you think I should do with it. Probably seen a lot of people on the internet going on about hydrangea pruning at the moment, and I'm no exception. This is a mop head, so it's a fairly good time to do it. They say you should keep these on as long as possible to protect the newer growth from frost and the elements, especially in the colder months. But you can see here there's plenty of new shoots, but also crucially, one of the things that you should be wary of about leaving these on too long is that in this form they act like sails. And we've got a bit of a casualty here where unfortunately it's effectively snapped the branch with the wind that's taken it. So that's going to have to come off, and hopefully the shape of the plant won't suffer too much once it's fully grown and in leaf. But yeah, unfortunately that's a pitfalls of doing this, and timing is everything. So I'm going to take that off now, but before I do that I'm just going to take these heads off here. I'm going to make it quite nice and tight and take some of these dead ones right back down to the top, to the bottom, sorry, and that one there, and then this chap here I'm just going to take off completely like that, and I think that should be more or less okay. Some of these are not going to have any buds on them, so we can take them off. And then last one there, like that. So yeah, quite pleased. There's a few buds here as well, and some new growth here, so I'm just going to tidy that up. But we've got a nice compact plant ready to go. Excuse the mess, I'm a gardener. Thinking on about the dahlias, I'm actually just potting up two of them now, so I just thought I'd quickly show you. Very, very easy and straightforward. The others that I've done that you can see behind me, they're the larger ones, but we actually have much smaller ones here, a pair of them. And these are going to be absolutely fine to at least start off in pots about this big. It's the warmth and the frost protection and the sunlight that we ultimately need, so it doesn't really matter that it's a bit crowded, and potentially once it gets going, depending on the size of the plant, I might put it in the ground, I might transfer it to something a bit more decorative, I might just leave it, doesn't really matter. So this is actually a chocolate coloured leaf dahlia, and this is a pink and white one, and I make no apologies for the fact that I don't know their names. I'm not even sure which is which, to be quite honest with you. Now, a lot of people I can hear crying out saying, oh, you need to label things and you need to keep stock of it all. But I prefer to actually be surprised. At the end of the day, they're flowers, they're lovely, they bring joy to the garden and they make me happy, and surely that's kind of the point. So anyway, here we go. We'll see what happens. So I've actually just pre-mixed something up here, which I'll show you. Very, very straightforward mix of compost and perlite. I've actually used the perlite that they were being stored in, so don't want to waste anything, obviously. And I'm going to basically fill them up with a little bit in each one, create a little bit of a base, and for them to sit in. It's fairly obvious because the roots are coming that way. This is the top. However, if you actually notice, it's actually on a right angle. So potentially it was actually sort of growing like that at one point. So I'm going to probably angle it slightly. We'll kind of do it like that, I think, with that one. And this one is slightly less obvious, but ultimately you're looking for a small stump about there, and all of the tubers will fly off it sort of vertically and diagonally. So we think that's where the shoot's going to come from. So that's going to kind of go in like that. So I'm going to plonk that in there like that. Again, I'm just going to have the shoot ever so slightly proud of the rest of the soil. Top it up like that. And that's kind of how we want to get just that one there like that. I'm going to give it a shake as well, because the spacing between the tubers means that you want to make sure the soil comes into contact with as much as possible. And then this chap here, we're just going to fit him like that, I think. Some more soil on top of that. Like that again, give it a good shake. Good to go.